You have been carrying a victory that people misread. You have been carrying a quiet strength that was mocked before it was understood. You have been carrying a burden in silence, and the silence itself has made others think they were right about you. But they were not right. They were only loud. Stay with me, because by the end of this message, you will see why the very place that tried to reduce you is the same place that will be forced to recognize you. Tonight is not random. This word did not reach you by accident. It reached you because there is a part of your life that has been waiting for a witness, and I am speaking to that part now. I am not here to decorate your pain. I am here to name what has already been happening in your spirit, while everyone else looked at the surface and made their conclusions too quickly. Before this is over, you will recognize the hidden pressure that has been following you, the pattern beneath it, and the deeper reason your life has begun to refuse the old story. You will understand why the one who humiliated you is not your final audience. And if you stay with me, you will also understand why the next public moment of your life is not going to be small. There has been something happening to you that you have not fully named, but you have felt it. You have felt it in the way certain rooms no longer fit. You have felt it in the way certain voices no longer carry weight. You have noticed that old approval does not satisfy you the way it once did. You have noticed that some conversations leave you tired after only a few minutes, as if your spirit has to step outside to breathe. You have noticed that when you try to return to what once felt normal, something in you resists, not because you are becoming cold, but because you are becoming clear. You have even noticed that some days begin with a strange heaviness, and you cannot trace it to any obvious event. The day is ordinary, the face in the mirror is familiar, the house is the same, the road is the same, yet your inner world is already speaking a different language. And perhaps the most surprising sign of all is that you have started seeing confirmation in places where you used to see nothing at all. Repeated patterns, repeated timing, repeated reminders that there is a hand guiding what seems unfinished. You are not imagining that. You are not overthinking it. You are not losing your mind. What you have been calling pressure may actually be alignment. What you have been calling fatigue may actually be the soul refusing to keep performing for what is no longer true. What you have been calling distance may actually be protection. Some of the things that used to drain you are now losing access to you. Some of the things that used to define you are now losing their voice. Some of the things that used to intimidate you are now standing in front of a life they can no longer interpret correctly. If even one of these moments has found you while I have been speaking, if your chest has tightened and then softened, if your mind has gone quiet for a second because you know you are being seen, type the number 888 in the comments. 888 carries the sense of overflow, the sign that what was held back is no longer blocked, the reminder that there is more of your life ahead than behind you. Type 888, then come right back to me, because there is something beneath these signs, and if you can hear that, then you are ready to go deeper. Beneath those signs is one single pattern, and it is this. You have been trying to live as though the wound of being misunderstood still has authority over your future. You have been negotiating with a version of yourself that learned to shrink before it learned to stand. You have been translating yourself for people who were never willing to understand your language in the first place. That is the pattern, not weakness, not failure, not inconsistency. The pattern is that you kept offering explanation to those who were committed to misreading the evidence. You kept bringing sincerity to rooms that only knew suspicion. You kept bringing depth to spaces that only knew surface. You kept bringing truth to people who only knew how to measure you by the day they decided you were less than you are. And because you are loyal, because you are thoughtful, because you do not easily abandon what you have poured yourself into, you stayed longer than you should have. You kept hoping the next conversation would correct the last one. You kept hoping time would make them fair. You kept hoping your excellence would eventually force their honesty. But people who need you small do not become generous simply because you become bright. They only become visible. That is the real shift. What is breaking now is not your value. What is breaking now is the spell that told you their opinion was the roof over your life. You have spent too long carrying your name in a place that refused to pronounce it correctly. You have spent too long trying to prove your worth in rooms where the verdict was written before you entered. You have spent too long turning yourself into an argument when you were meant to become a witness. And that is why the humiliation hurt so deeply, not because it was true, but because it was public. Not because it defined you, but because it interrupted your peace. Not because it ended your story, but because it tried to rename you before your time. Yet even this had a cost. Staying inside that pattern drained you in ways people never saw. It made you over-explain. It made you second-guess what you already knew. It made you hesitate before stepping into places you had every right to occupy. It made you smaller in conversation and louder in your own head. It made you carry a private weariness that no compliment could fully heal, because the wound was not in your talent. The wound was in your permission to exist freely. And that is why the next layer matters, because the pattern did not begin with the last insult, and it did not begin with the most recent disappointment. There is a deeper place under this, and it carries the shape of a courtyard. Imagine a courtyard that has always belonged to you, even before you knew how to enter it. Imagine gates that were built around your life long before you could read the language carved into them. Imagine walking for years along the outer wall, hearing echoes, seeing shadows, sensing there is a center you cannot yet reach. That is what this season has felt like. You have lived as someone circling your own inheritance. You have sensed the opening, but someone else's noise kept standing in the doorway. You have felt the invitation, but there was always a voice saying you were too late, too much, too ordinary, too broken, too whatever they needed you to be so they would not have to face what was really there. And the courtyard image is not just poetic, it tells the truth. Because a courtyard is not an arena, it is not a courtroom. It is not a marketplace where everything is bought and sold by applause. A courtyard is a place of belonging, a place that was made to hold your footsteps, a place where the air itself is different because it was designed for peace, not performance. Long ago, something in you was taught to live outside the courtyard. Long ago, you were made to believe that being chosen meant being constantly defended. Long ago, your quiet knowing was treated as if it needed permission from louder people. Long ago, the part of you that knew where home was told to be careful, to be smaller, to be manageable, to be grateful for crumbs of recognition. So you learned to walk like someone asking not to be noticed. You learned to speak like someone trying not to offend. You learned to carry your own light with one hand while using the other hand to shield it from the wind. That is why the pattern has felt so stubborn. It is not just about what happened recently. It is about what got trained into your nervous system, your reflexes, your patience, your voice. But listen to me carefully. A courtyard can be remembered. A gate can open again. A center can be rediscovered. And the moment you stop living as if the outer wall is your whole world, the whole geometry of your life changes. You begin to stand differently. You begin to hear differently. You begin to recognize that what looked like delay was often the slow mercy of being brought back to what was always yours. The silence in you has not died. It has been waiting. The clarity in you has not vanished. It has been guarded. The dignity in you has not been removed. It has simply been buried beneath too many voices that were never meant to have the final word. Let that settle before you answer it. Let that land in the place inside you that has been tired of pretending that humiliation was the end of the matter. If the courtyard I just described has opened in you, if you can feel that something has just clicked into place and you cannot explain why, Type the words, "I am home," in the comments. Let it be your witness. Let it seal where it just landed. Type it, then come right back to me. Because once you see the courtyard, you stop confusing the outer wall with your identity. And once that happens, the return begins. The return is not you becoming someone else. The return is you becoming reachable by your own truth again. The return is not a performance. It is a recovery. You do not need to invent a new spirit. You do not need to manufacture a new personality. You do not need to force a new kind of confidence out of thin air. You do not need to earn permission from the people who misunderstood your becoming. What you need is to receive back what pressure taught you to outsource. You need to receive back your steady pace. You need to receive back your clean no. You need to receive back your unembarrassed yes. You need to receive back the ability to stand without explaining your right to stand. That is why this message is not asking you to strive harder. It is asking you to return more honestly. There are two simple practices that matter here, and they are not tasks, they are anchors. The first is what I call the morning threshold. Before you answer the day, before you answer messages, before you answer the old anxiety that reaches for you before sunrise, sit for a moment and remember the courtyard. Remember that your life is not the outer wall. Remember that you belong to a center you do not have to fight for. Then take one slow breath and say quietly, "This day does not own my name." That is enough. The second is what I call the dignity check. When a memory of the humiliation rises, do not chase it. Do not rehearse it. Do not keep asking why they did it. Instead, ask a better question. What part of me is still standing outside the gate because it believes the insult was instruction? Then answer that part with tenderness. Tell it that an insult is not a map. Tell it that embarrassment is not prophecy. Tell it that what happened to you was real, but it was never the final truth about you. These are not tricks. They are acts of stewardship. And stewardship is different from striving. Striving says, "I must become enough." Stewardship says, "I must care for what is already entrusted to me." Striving panics when it is not applauded. Stewardship stays faithful when no one is clapping. Striving asks, "How do I force this?" Stewardship asks, "How do I tend what is growing?" That distinction matters because your life is no longer asking to be forced. It is asking to be tended. You have already done too much carrying. You have already done too much proving. You have already done too much translating of your own worth into languages that were always too small for it. Now the work is gentler and stronger at the same time. Now you listen for what is true. Now you protect what is sacred. Now you stop giving the center of your life to peripheral voices. Now you let the courtyard be a courtyard again. And when you do, something surprising begins to happen. You do not become louder. You become clearer. You do not become harder. You become cleaner. You do not become colder. You become unavailable to what was feeding on your uncertainty. That is power. Not the power to dominate, the power to remain aligned. If this is naming what your spirit already knew, let your like be your amen without words, not as a metric, as an agreement that what was named here was named correctly. Sit with that for a moment. Let it settle into the part of you that has waited longest to hear it spoken plainly. Because someone came to mind while I was speaking, and I know why. There is someone in your life who carries quiet grief behind a composed face. There is someone who keeps working harder than the room deserves and still feels unseen. There is someone who has learned to smile while their insides are asking whether they will ever be fully chosen. There is someone who looks strong on the outside but is privately tired of being underestimated, and your spirit recognized them the moment I said it. That person may be older than you, younger than you, or simply closer than you realized. They may be the one who always keeps moving, the one who never complains, the one who has been holding a posture nobody notices. They may be the one who has been humiliated in a quieter way than yours. But it still aches the same. Send this to them, not as a recommendation, as a delivery, the same way it was delivered to you tonight by appointment, because what is being carried here is not just comfort, it is recognition. And recognition changes what silence can no longer hide. Before this closes, type the words "I am chosen" in the comments, not as a wish, not as a performance, as a confirmation. The agreement that has been forming across these minutes is not that you will never be wounded again. It is that you will not again mistake the wound for your identity. Type it slowly. Let your fingers do what your spirit is already doing. You are confirmed. You are being restored. You are no longer governed by the voice that tried to reduce you. You are no longer standing at the outer wall. You are being brought inward. You are being made steady. You are being made visible in the right place. You are being prepared for a moment that will not require you to beg for recognition. You are being taught to stand where your life can be seen clearly. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not what they said when they thought they had the upper hand. Right now, all across the world, others are receiving this same recognition in their own language, in their own room, in their own hidden place of becoming. You are part of a quiet gathering that does not announce itself, and that is exactly why it is real. Some are sitting in kitchens, some are walking alone, some are staring at a screen with tears they did not expect. Some are finally letting go of the version of themselves that was built to survive insult. All of you are being gathered into the same unseen mercy. All of you are being reminded that humiliation was never meant to be your home. All of you are being called back to the center. It is sealed. You have been brought this far for a reason, and the reason is not confusion. The reason is recognition. The reason is that the thing that tried to bury you is now losing its grip because the truth in you has become stronger than the fear around you. You are not standing at the edge of collapse. You are standing at the edge of understanding, and once understanding arrives, the old humiliation loses its language. It can no longer name you. It can only echo behind you like a door that has already closed. This is the part where you stop asking whether the pain meant something and begin to see that it did. It meant that you were being separated from what could not carry you forward. It meant that you were being refined by pressure that had no right to define your worth. It meant that the very place where you were overlooked was never the place that could hold your destiny. You may have thought the silence was abandonment. You may have thought the delay was denial. You may have thought the closed door was a final verdict. But what if the silence was making room? What if the delay was protection? What if the closed door was only closing behind you, so you would not keep returning to a place that had already shown you its limits? That is what changes now. You are no longer interpreting your life through the memory of the wound. You are beginning to interpret the wound through the larger arc of your life. That is a different sight. That is a wider horizon. That is where peace starts to breathe again. And I need you to hear this with complete tenderness. The one who humiliated you did not create the version of you that is rising now. They only revealed how much life had already been waiting inside you. They exposed their own smallness before they exposed your strength. They tried to assign you a place, but they could not assign you a future. So let them discover it. Let them see it. Let them face the reality they once denied, not because you are seeking their reaction, but because heaven does not leave truth hidden forever. What was done in public will not remain the only public memory. What was spoken over you in a moment of cruelty will not be the final sentence over your life. There is a different sound around you now. It is not the sound of revenge. It is the sound of release. It is the sound of a life no longer tightening around old proof, old shame, old explanations. It is the sound of someone becoming too grounded to be shaken by a person who once had access to their nervous system. You are learning how to breathe without preparing to defend yourself. You are learning how to stand without rehearsing your justification. You are learning how to hear your own name without flinching. And that is a holy kind of recovery. Because the deepest humiliation never just hurts the moment. It tries to train the future. It tries to make you smaller before you even arrive. It tries to turn caution into identity, silence into survival, and hesitation into wisdom. But you are no longer agreeing to live by the memory of what wounded you. You are returning to the center. You are returning to the part of you that does not need to perform, to be valid. You are returning to the part of you that knows dignity without asking permission. You are returning to the quiet authority that was always yours, even when it was buried under disappointment. And from that center, the world begins to look different. The comments that once pierced you now sound smaller. The faces that once intimidated you now look temporary. The voices that once dominated the room now seem to be speaking from a shelf lower than the one they imagined. You're seeing more clearly, and clarity is a form of freedom. So breathe. Let the truth sit where it needs to sit. Let the old sentence lose its power. Let the memory stop acting like prophecy. You have been carried through too much to remain governed by what tried to shame you. You are not behind. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not too late to be restored. You are not too wounded to be wise. You are not too humbled to rise. In fact, the place where you were brought low may become the very place where your authority becomes undeniable. That is why this ending is not an ending of defeat. It is an ending of surrender to the wrong story. The wrong story said you would stay marked by what happened. The wrong story said your name would be spoken through the lens of the person who hurt you. The wrong story said the wound would outlive the witness, but the witness has arrived. The truth has arrived. The quiet vindication has arrived. And now, even if no one else understands it yet, you understand that the humiliation was never the measuring stick. It was only the contrast that revealed what could not be taken from you. Your grace remained. Your endurance remained. Your calling remained. Your voice remained. Your future remained. Let this be the place where you stop shrinking your own testimony. Let this be the place where you stop apologizing for surviving what was meant to silence you. Let this be the place where you let your life be larger than their opinion. There is no humility in agreeing with what tried to diminish you. There is only freedom in telling the truth. The truth is that you endured. The truth is that you were not destroyed. The truth is that the same pressure that seemed designed to break you has become the proof that you can carry more than they believed. The truth is that the same people who tried to humiliate you will not be able to pretend forever that they did not see what they saw. So let the day come. Let the moment arrive. Let the eyes that once looked past you be forced to look again. Not for your revenge, but for the dignity of reality, finally correcting the lie. You are already moving into that correction. You are already stepping into a cleaner atmosphere. You are already leaving behind the emotional geography of the place that misread you. And the farther you move, the less power the old humiliation has to keep pretending it is still near. There is something peaceful about that. There is something healing about that. There is something settled about that. The soul does not need to keep shouting once it knows the truth. It can become still. It can become clear. It can become sovereign in the quiet way that cannot be faked. And this is why you do not need to chase the moment of vindication. It will come to the right place at the right time. Your task is not to manufacture it. Your task is to remain faithful to the person you are becoming while it unfolds. Your task is to keep your posture clean, your heart soft, your discernment awake. Because the best response to humiliation is not performance. It is alignment. It is refusing to let someone else's distortion become your identity. It is letting your life speak so calmly that the lie has nowhere to stand. You are entering that kind of calm now, not the calm of numbness, the calm of certainty, the calm of someone who no longer needs everyone to agree in order to know what is true, the calm of someone whose worth is no longer in negotiations. So keep your head lifted, keep your steps steady, keep your heart available to what is good. You do not have to rush the unfolding, you only have to remain open to the fact that it is unfolding. The hand that carried you through the humiliation is the same hand that will carry you through the revealing. And when the revealing comes, it will not feel like chaos. It will feel like a place in you finally matching what was always meant to be there. The inside and the outside will begin to agree. The spirit and the story will begin to agree. The wound and the wisdom will begin to separate. That is when peace becomes deeper than memory. So receive this as a final affirmation. You are not the echo of what hurt you. You are the evidence that hurt did not win. You are the witness that the false conclusion could not hold. You are the living answer to a question they asked too early and answered too arrogantly. And yes, the one who humiliated you will discover it. They will discover that the person they tried to reduce has become steadier, clearer, and more impossible to misread. They will discover that your silence was not surrender. They will discover that your delay was not defeat. They will discover that the life they thought they could define has already moved beyond their reach. So let the discovery come. Let the truth stand. Let your heart remain untroubled by the noise of people who arrived at the wrong conclusion. What matters now is that you know. What matters now is that you see. What matters now is that you refuse to return to the old script. You are being led into a season where your presence will explain what your words no longer need to. You are being led into a season where your peace will testify before your mouth ever opens. You are being led into a season where the very things that once embarrassed you become the evidence of your endurance. Hold to that. Let it stay with you. Let it settle into every place that still flinches when it remembers. You are not what they said. You are not what they assumed. You are not what they were able to see in a moment of their own limitation. You are more, and that more is rising. It is sealed